It's been such a long time. I got my HV. I had sleep deprivation from some pet sitting situations I've had. I'm having a hard time finding an apartment with an EHV. I guess we're stigmatized um, because we're getting assistance or whatever it is. So today I'll talk about how I got my EHV because somebody asked me how. Because their friend doesn't know how to get one. I was in a domestic violence shelter in 2012. This, I went in, I pressed charges against my abuser. I was abused by him for about a year and a half. And I was in a shelter. There was an order of protection against him, not to try to contact me. And I went in with the agreement that I'll look for work and look for housing on my own. So I went in and I found some work that would stop my Social Security disability payments. And I looked for an apartment and I had a very hard time. They don't even have Wi-Fi in their shelter. I went to the McDonald's every day and ordered a hot chocolate or something. It was summer, so sometimes I order like a vanilla cone. But anyways, the job I took was a dance job. It paid okay. It paid well. Um, it was high profile, though I wasn't particularly. I don't particularly like that choreographer or their work. But I took it. And my caseworker seemed to not like that. She was kind of asking me, like, when the audition was, when I just answered an email saying, I'll take this job. Um, she would ask me the difference between an audition and a rehearsal, which I think a grown person knows. And just really weird vibes. Um, and then I had my 3 month stay at the shelter extended, and I started to get worried. She said that, it's only 3 months per person, and then I have to apply for an extension. I did not know that it was like the only way for a single person to get Section 8. It's usually for families. So but out of desperation, I went to see this really disgusting place. They called it an intentional community, but it was just like people on drugs, and some of the rooms were really not cleaned, well kept. But I took it because it was within what I can pay with Social Security, and it didn't last, and it was very unhealthy. And the people who lived there were selfish, entitled. They looked and acted poor, but they were from very entitled and privileged backgrounds. Um, so, after I moved in there, my social worker therapist was like, "Why did you refuse Section 8?" And I said, I never did. And he told me that the caseworker at the shelter told him that I refused Section 8 and I wanted to live in anarchist housing. This is the kind of lies she made. So after that house folded, I was there for a total of 8 months, and it was very challenging. I couldn't sleep at night even if I had a part-time job to supplement my Social Security. Um, people's parents were paying their way. They don't have to work, or they keep getting fired, but their parents help them out. So when I was getting turned, like the landlord is kicking us out, I called the shelter, domestic violence shelter, told them the situation, and the person who answered asked me what happened, and I told them. And she said that she'll call me back. And she called me back with the supervisor's direct line and first name. So I kept calling. The first time, this man would answer and say, "How did you get my number?" And I said, "Somebody on the hotline who refused to give her name." So he said he'll help me out, and then he said he'll call me back. He didn't call me back. So the next day I called. He said, "How did I get the number?" Same thing. He said he'll call me back. The third time I called, the fourth time I called, he just hung up on me. So this was 10 years ago. 2 years after I lost my apartment because of this person who I was involved with, who was verbally and mentally abusing me from the beginning, but started to physically abuse me. So 10 years later, I was I had to find a place again after moving 11 times during the pandemic because of non-partner domestic abuse. And it was February. They said they'll ask somebody who can help me. No one called back. I kept calling, kept calling, kept calling. Somebody who's a supervisor answered the hotline. And that's how the application process started. So I started calling in February. Um, the initial application was put in April. And 7 months later, I got my UHB voucher. This is how I got it. I had to go after a women's organization who screwed me over, and I'm guessing at this time that this woman was angry that she had to be a social worker. Maybe she wanted to be an artist of some kind. And she didn't think that I needed safe housing, or she wanted to make my life miserable because I had an occupation, or I have an occupation that might be desirable. Let me tell you, postmodern dance doesn't pay much. People are not nice to each other. People are not nice to Asians or Asian American people. So this is how I got my EHB voucher. I've been looking online and going to open houses and showings, and it's hard to get a person who will even consider me. I got my EHB voucher on November 27th. I was supposed to have somebody assigned to me to help me search. They're overbooked because there are too many vouchers out there. So the person at this woman's shelter, the supervisor, is my caseworker for now. So yes, I have a voucher and I'm looking. I'm exhausted. I'm a little relieved that it finally came through, but now I'm looking. So this is how I got my voucher.